absolute values. So we're going to be talking about two different things today. We're going to be talking about opposites, and we're going to be talking about absolute values. So opposites are two numbers that are the same distance from the zero on the number line, but on the opposite side of zero. For example, plot 7 and negative 7. If I plot 7 here and negative 7, they are both the same distance away from zero. However, an absolute value of a number is the distance from the distance of a value from zero on the number line, no matter what the sign, positive or negative. So use the number line to find the opposite of 3. So if this is 3 right here, we know that our opposite is going to be negative 3. And now let's use that let's use that vocabulary of an absolute value of a number for example 2. Find the opposite and absolute values for the following values. So if I were to find negative 2 on the number line, it would be right there. But if I'm looking for the absolute value, so this right here would be our negative 2, but our absolute value of negative 2 is going to be 2. Why? Because the distance between negative 2 and 0 is simply 2. Same thing with 4. Here is our 4. Boom. But the absolute value of 4 is the distance between 4 and 0, which is going to be 4. So the absolute value of 4 is not the opposite of positive 4. Okay, a lot of people find that that's easy to remember, but no matter what is in no matter what is in that absolute value, those absolute value bars, it's going to give the magnitude, which is always going to be positive, which is always going to be the distance between that number and 0. So if I were to just give you a few more like this, if I would say the absolute value of negative 3 is going to be positive 3, because the distance between negative 3 and 0 is 3. Or if I have the absolute value of 10, that's simply going to be 10, because the distance between 10 and 0 is 10. Now, if that's if that's a little bit for you to wrap your mind around, what I want you to do is I want you to go on to the absolute value practice first before evaluating absolute expressions. So I'm just going to slowly, so that you can pause and check your answers. I'm just going to slowly pause, or you're welcome to pause. I'm just going to slowly go through the answer key. This one's a bit of a tricky one because this number right here is going to be positive, but since the number on since there is a negative sign here, it's actually the overall is going to be negative. And I didn't put down an answer here because I want you guys to come up with your own methods. If you wanted to come and share with me your method, I would be very happy to hear it. So once you've completed that absolute value extra practice, let's take a few moments and evaluate absolute value expressions. Now, in some ways, absolute value bars, they act like brackets in that we have to do what's in the brackets first. However, they don't act as brackets because I cannot say with this negative 5, distribute that to both of the things in the brackets. So what we do in absolute value bars, we must accomplish first in a larger expression. So for this one right here, I'm going to get the absolute value of negative 1 minus 3 is going to be negative 4. The absolute value of negative 4 is going to be 4. So with B, negative 5 times the absolute value of 19 minus 11. So I'm going to get negative 5 times 19 minus 11 is going to be 8. So that becomes negative 5 times 8, which is going to be negative 40. Sometimes people think that if it's an absolute value question, the answer has to be positive. but it doesn't necessarily. It just means what's in the absolute value bars is positive. Something that gets really tricky when we have nested absolute value bars, so we need to pay attention to, say if something is like this, -2 minus 5. What we have to do is we have to simply keep these bigger brackets out, so the absolute value of -2 is going to be +2 minus 5. Absolute value of -3, which is just +3. So you have to pay attention to where the absolute value bars begin and where they end, and what they apply to. So just be careful in your reading of the questions. In addition to the extra practice that I gave to you, I want you to turn to page 90. Oh, sorry, page 92, and I want you to do numbers 12, and then on the next page on 93, I want you to do 14.